In this video, I'll show you my top 15 drywall finishing tips that I've learned over my career to help you as a beginner or DIYer in your plastering project. Plus, stick around to the end, I'll show you the best tip I've learned. All that and more, coming right up. Let's kick it off with number 1, swipe twice after filling screw holes. This just allows the plaster to suck up rather than bulge down, so you don't have to scrape it off when doing your next coat.
So here we go, if we just fill it once, it's kind of bulging down. You can see it in the light there, but if we go back, clean it off, it'll suck up. So when you do your next coat, you don't have to sand it or scrape it, you can just coat it up because it's sucked up.
Number 2, leaving a lift off or a lip from where you lift off your trowel off the plaster. It's always easier to come back and scrape it off or sand it off once it's hard, rather than trying to sort of flatten it out while it's still wet. You can see my lift off there from my trowel. Just leave it, walk away, and come back once it's hard, and you can just scrape that easy enough. You can scrape it flat. You know, you try and flatten it off while it's wet, you're just going to create divots and dents. Same with using a knife on internals, same with a trowel on a joint. Just lift off, let it dry, come back and scrape it off. Number 3, scrape setting plaster after it's just set. Now, it'll still be wet, but it's hard to the touch, and it's a lot easier to scrape back now than it is once it's set and dried. Once it's set and dried, it's rock hard, so it's a lot easier to scrape back now, plus there's no dust. You just sort of clean it off your knife, and you don't need to wear a mask, so it's a win-win and just makes life a lot easier scraping back at this stage. So number 3, scrape once it's set. Number 4, filling small holes or filling holes where wall plugs have been removed. It's actually better to make the hole bigger, believe it or not. So here we have the hole. There's been a wall plug in there, and what happens is you can see if you fill that just without doing anything, the plaster or the putty or whatever you're using is probably just going to fall in through the back and fall down. So the best thing to do is to cut any loose stuff, and you're almost making the hole bigger. So, and we want to create a background for that plaster or that putty to adhere to. So we're going to sort of cut the hole bigger on an angle, so we've got a sort of a 45-degree angle there, and that's going to stop the plaster or the putty falling through. It's got something to adhere to when it dries. You want to push that in, push it right in, so it's actually falling in behind and falling down the back of the wall. It's actually gripping onto the paper on the back of the plasterboard, so it's all sticking. And we'll just clean that off and we'll let that dry. Number 5, get yourself a gauging trowel. Now, I've had this for years, and it's really handy for mixing plaster in a bucket. I'm always mixing up small batches of setting compound in a bucket. It's just really easy to sort of whip it up and get it mixed up really good. It takes a bit of effort, but you know, if you just don't want to get the mixing drill out to mix up a little bit of plaster, plus it's great for cleaning up the edges of the bucket, and it's excellent for scooping out plaster onto your hawk out of the bucket, and even for air drying pre-mixed compounds, just whipping it up, getting it out of the bucket and onto the hawk. Really handy. Number 6, pre-filling. One of the most important parts of the jobs on renovation projects, especially. Not so much for new builds, because new build plasterboard is all pretty spot on, but any renovation jobs where you've got big gaps or just areas that need to be sort of filled before you sort of start work, it just allows for when you do your taping coat, it'll just go on a lot nicer. Filling gaps around edges, really be filled with plasterboard if it's a bit bigger than normal. If you can't get plasterboard in there, you just fill it with plaster, and it just makes life a lot easier again, just when taping in. And if things are uneven, you've got one sheet slightly different from the other, just fill that just to make it sort of a bit more flatter, just for your tape to go on a lot nicer. Number 7, get yourself some wide fibre fuse tape for those bigger patches. This one here is 150mm wide, and it's great for those areas where cornice or coving has been removed. You just need to cover up a bigger sort of a patch. If you've got some sockets that have been filled up, this is great for just covering the socket in one go, and you can just cover a sort of a double joint in one go. So a lot easier than running a few strips of the smaller tape. You can see the difference there in width, and just for covering these electrical sockets in one go, it's a lot easier than putting sort of 3 strips of the thinner tape on. Number 8, cut the corners off your tape. See, we're just doing a bit of a patch here, and I've just cut the corners off the corner of the tape, and that just makes things a lot easier when you're sort of finishing off the plaster, adhering the tape into the plaster and just running your knife around to get that flat surface, so it just doesn't bump over the corners of the tape. Just runs around nicely, you get that nice flat finish right around. And it also works well with paper tape on internal corners, just cutting the corner on an angle just so your knife runs off there beautifully. Number 9, if you're doing a patch in a wall, just feel inside the hole first and see if you can feel timbers around the place. If you can, that's great, because you can sort of mark where they are before you cut the hole out. That means you're utilizing the timber in the wall rather than just cutting a hole in the wall and then having to put a lot more timber in there. You've found the timber already, so you can use that to screw your new piece of plasterboard to. And that leads us on to number 10, cut the plasterboard first for your patch. It's a lot easier to fit a cut piece of plasterboard into a hole rather than to cut the hole first and then cut and measure a piece to go into the hole. So you can see what I'm doing here is I am just sort of held it up to where I sort of wanted it to cover, cut it out sort of randomly what I think would be a right size, and I'm just going to put it over the hole. Always remember to mark which is the top, so you know which way it goes back, and then you can mark around utilizing those marks you've already done for where the timber is, and then all you got to do is cut out the hole we have marked, because you've already got your piece ready to go back in. This just saves a lot of stuffing around, having to measure the new piece to go in. It's already cut, fits in perfectly. Now that leads us on nicely to number 11, installing timber. You can just screw that directly through the plasterboard. You don't have to screw it to the existing timber to sort of frame up the wall. All you want to do is get an offcut, just a bit of 2x2 or whatever you've got floating around, and something just to tuck in there nicely, and you can just screw through the plasterboard, just so when you screw your new piece on, it's going to line up nicely and you'll get that level finish. Plus, just screw in some screws into those timbers that you're already utilizing from checking them with your hand, and there you go. Number 12, cutting the plasterboard on a 45-degree angle. Now, unlike the previous one, the previous patch where we used timbers, maybe you don't want to, or you don't have any, or like here it's an electrical box, you can just leave the old electrical box in there, and we're just going to cut a piece of plasterboard and cut the edges on a 45-degree. This will allow us to stick it in with plaster, but it will also allow the plasterboard not to fall into the hole. So remember to mark which way is up. Then we're going to use a plaster adhesive, and we're just going to fill in those edges, put a lot of plaster in there, and same on the piece we've just cut, and then we can just stick that in there or adhere that new piece in there, and that works perfectly. Just push that in and flatten it off, and we can do that without using timbers. So that's a great little tip is there as well. Cutting plasterboard on a 45-degree angle just to stop it falling into the wall. Number 13, using a scraper to clean up your three-ways. Now if you sanded a three-way before and you've used a sponge, it's always hard just to get right into that apex of the corner. So a good little tip is just to use your scraper, tip of the scraper, and just clean out those three-ways. Just get any little bits of dags or whatever's left in there, and they'll clean up absolutely beautiful. You can get them nice and sharp, and just finish them off perfectly with your scraper. Great little tip, that one. Number 14 is using a wet sanding sponge or sanding block just to polish up your plaster cornice miters. Now if you get an old one that's a bit worn out, you can just dip it in some water, and when you're polishing your miters with cornice adhesive, you can just use the edges just to sort of sand off or smooth off the joint and get things nice and flush. Just sort of like a wet sand, I guess, and that just polishes up absolutely beautifully. You can get those little bits out of the corners. So number 14, just utilizing an old sanding sponge, wetting it and using it to polish up the miters. Number 15 is all about air bubbles. I've saved the best for last. This is my top drywall finishing tip. If you're doing a patch over an existing painted surface, if you've done one of these before, you'll know that whenever you do your second or subsequent coats of plaster, you'll get this happening. Air bubbles will start appearing where there's a painted surface underneath. Now I've done a full video on this. If you want to check that out, it'll be linked in the description. You can watch that. But what's the best way to get rid of these? Well, I've learnt in my career the easiest way is to, before you do your filler coat, is to do a nice tight skim coat. Now I like to use my 6-inch knife just to do a real nice tight skim coat. There'll be no bubbles, and what's going to happen is it's going to dry to the touch quite quickly, so you only have to wait sort of 2, 3 or 4 minutes for that to be touch dry, and then you can hit it again with another coat of plaster, and that is going to eliminate any air bubbles coming through. Great little tip, that one. Let me know in the comments which one's your favorite. Have you tried these? Have you done any of these? Let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Enjoyed making this one. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you on the next one.